So as always, the Minding Your Business podcast is brought to you by Brooks Brothers Consulting. Brooks Brothers Consulting is a development firm that my brother Philip and I started in the summer of 2013. We are a leadership talent development firm that focuses on new and existing directors, executives, and managers that are looking to level up and step their game up with their corporation. So whether you've been recently promoted, whether you are existing in leadership and you're new to your company, companies and organizations hire us to be able to come in and be a coach mentor to your leadership team to help you develop the critical thinking skills and whatnot to be able to drive to the next level and drive performance in sales, service, operations, and employee engagement to your company or organization. So if you're in leadership and you're grooming leaders, as we do, and you're looking for someone that can help your new leaders or existing leaders level up to that next level, you need to give us a call, 901-299-6822. That's 901-299-6822. And you can visit us online, www.brooksbrothersconsulting.com, www.brooksbrothersconsulting.com. And another part of the consulting firm that I'm happy to share is a new subsidiary, our lending business, our alternative financing business, that's powered by Intro Business Solutions with Mr. John White. That business has been taken off here in the last several weeks, that I'm happy to say. And because of that, we needed to kind of spin that off from the consulting firm. So you'll now see and hear Champ Capital Solutions. That's champcapitalsolutions.com, where we provide alternative financing and linking business owners and individuals to a network of 4,000 U.S.-based lenders all around the country that offer low rates, great terms, and great service, whether you're looking to purchase and lease equipment, buy and sell commercial or residential real estate as investment property, whether you're looking at sales leasebacks, equipment financing, working capital, lines of credit or term loans, whatever kind of financing that you're looking for that's more of an alternative to a bank or credit union, make sure that you get with me. Again, the number is 901-299-6822. So today's episode, we're at episode 43. It is titled The Job, the Business, or Both. So we want to get into our topic with no delay. But first, you know how we do. We got to crank the music up, baby. Let's do it.
What we do here is go back.
Yeah. So I'm your host, Champ Ron. This is the Minding Your Business podcast. Today's Friday the 13th. I hadn't seen Jason walking around yet with his machete, but maybe that's going to be tonight when that rain hits. But it's a beautiful day. Last 2 days have been beautiful here in the great city of Memphis, Tennessee, here by the Mississippi River, adjacent to Arkansas and Mississippi. So glad that y'all could join. We want to get into today's topic. First thing I want to do before we get into the topic is I want to give a mad shout out to Greg Bernard with Data Maxim. We had our second Agents of Exchange networking event. It was Agents of Exchange Networking and Information Technology. We had that on this past Wednesday at the Hub Coffee House, which is located inside High Point Church at 6000 Briarcrest over kind of the Poplar Ridgeway area. Man, we had about 23 people there in that conference room, man. We packed it out again. Thank you, everybody that came. And Greg really delivered some great value around using technology within your business. And so whatever business that you're in real estate, you're in finance, you're in nonprofit, healthcare, you're in digital kind of solutions, you're in concierge services, you're in beauty supply, whatever that is, you're impacted by technology, and you need to have a good working knowledge of how to protect your data. Of course, we've seen Mark Zuckerberg being grilled in DC as it relates to privacy and things like that. So Greg did a great job of kind of relating that and had a good roundtable discussion about that. So if you missed it, you can actually catch a podcast episode that I posted the other day. If you go to the Minding Your Business on iTunes or SoundCloud or Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube, wherever that is. And you can also go to www.themybpodcast.com. And you can listen to the audio from that networking meeting where business owners got a chance to not only introduce themselves and network and connect, but again, got great value from Greg. Greg is at www.datamaxim.com. That's the name of his company, Data Maxim. Greg is a great IT consultant. And listen, don't get so flustered so much with money. I know everybody fall in love with money and either trying to get some or worrying about how much things cost. And those are usually broke folks that do a lot of worrying about money. If you grind and you put the work in, all that stuff comes. Your ability to take care of things and your ability to have it come in. So, folks that are always whining about money and always chasing it, like I told y'all, it's just like the coyote chasing the roadrunner, baby. That thing's gonna go beep beep and it's gonna take off on you, and your eyes go fall out your head just like the coyote, and you go on to the next scene. The world keeps moving. So don't chase money so much. Move with purpose and with integrity, and those things get drawn. It's the law of attraction, baby. It draws itself to you. So today's topic, the job, the business, or both. So from my experience, and y'all know that if you've been rocking with the Mind Your Business podcast now, which was formerly the I Really Mean It podcast, then you know that I speak a lot from defining what we're talking about, as well as, I don't look to kind of slam things. I don't look for rants. I'm not Stephen A. Smith or nobody like that. So I'm not looking to barbershop rant with my opinion and things like that. What I like to do is share the best practices, not from an academic standpoint, but from real life. So I talk about things that I've actually done or kind of seen done and participated in. So, I'm not telling you anything that I just solely read from a book and or saw, in a timeline and just said, I'm going to give you the academic kind of piece of it because I've never done it. No. I share with you things that I've actually done. And so in all three phases that we're going to talk about today, I've done. So I've been obviously the employee. I have a 16-year career in banking that spans from Regions Bank to Bank of America, to a little bit of time out of the industry with Service Master on the American Home Shield side, to Cadence Bank, and then most recently, before really launching with Brooks Brothers Consulting, with Orion Federal Credit Union. And so through all of that, I've had the opportunity to do a lot of things within the industry and build a network and build a reputation and things like that. And so you have the employee W-2 side. You also have the business owner, which I've been fortunate. I've sold businesses. I've had businesses that didn't work out, and that kind of thing. So I've got a pretty vast experience in a short period of time, y'all, with actually operating a business. A lot of that, again, while I'm also working your job, which I'm going to come back to. And that's kind of how you're doing both. So you got the three areas: a job, owning your own business or being a principal within a business, and then, looking to do both. What I want to tackle today with y'all, and if you want to interact, if you happen to be on Facebook Live, you can invite yourself kind of down here at the bottom. There's a icon. If you want to invite yourself on, I'll let you come on and it'll split the screen and we can have a conversation if you want to do that. Now, I know some of y'all get shy and some of y'all be places y'all not supposed to be, and y'all done told people y'all go be at the store and y'all somewhere, y'all at the movie theater and all this kind of stuff. So I know some of y'all don't want to give yourself away with the split screen. Just go into a closet or a bathroom or something like that. Pick up the stuff behind you. If you got dirty clothes and all that kind of stuff, pick that up and don't have that on the video screen. So, but yeah, feel free to join in if you're on Facebook Live. If you're not on Facebook Live and you're listening to the podcast, you can email me at ron@themybpodcast.com, or you can hit me on Twitter at champron. And we can continue the conversation. You can send in questions. But so anyway, with the three, what I want to talk about today is let's compare and contrast. It's not so much about pros and cons and things like that, because a lot of things depend on what your situation is. And I'm going to get into that. But what I want to do is just kind of compare and contrast all three, working a job, having a business, and then doing both. As Joyce mentioned earlier here on Facebook Live, she's struggling with that. And I think a lot of people struggle with that. Entrepreneurship. I'm 37. So I graduated high school in 1999, right? Back in those times, it wasn't really the sexy thing to be an entrepreneur. That an entrepreneur equated just kind of a lazy bump, right? Because in order to start a business, you had to have gone to business school and had the connections. You had to have gone to Harvard, or you had to have gone to, you had to be out on one of the coast, things like that, to really get your business going. Because in order to operate and scale it, you had to have those kind of contacts, because you didn't have the internet, right? So to run your business, you had to actually get up off the couch and go. People that hustle mixtapes and all that still do that, and they know it was a hustle game and it was a foot traffic game. You couldn't just sit on the couch and just fire away with your thumbs and run a business. So you had to actually print business cards still. You had to print flyers. You had to host networking events. There's a lot of different things you had to do to run your business, say a la 1998, right? Which wasn't that long ago for some of us that are old enough to remember that, like myself. There was that time when to run a business, what was costly. You had to save up some money and things like that to be able to get your message out. Required, mostly direct mail and again, hosting things and that kind of thing. So people who didn't have that basis level of kind of money and or knowledge and network, everything was a word of mouth kind of thing. You had to try to get on the radio, get on TV, things like that. And all those things weren't as in mass availability to people like they are today. So running a business was different. Then you fast forward now when you've got social media and the internet and things like that. Doing business is so much easier now. Amazon, YouTube, all the different places to be able to get your message out is mostly free for the most part, with some kind of data plan and access to the internet. So all that's changed the game so much to where now you've got people that have the ability to try to do both. They can kind of either be a freelancer or be a business owner, whether it's in a part-time sense and all that. Social media is interesting in that there was a time, and Chris Eagleston kind of mentioned this earlier, there was a time where a lot of people would down people who had a job because they essentially mentioned that, working for someone else and not being in control of your destiny or being in control of your work schedule and things like that, which the work schedule piece is a lot, because you go work way more and longer hours and harder on your own business than you will on anybody's job. So take anybody's job, whatever work ethic you got to give for that, you can multiply that when you're owning your own business, if your idea is to try to scale it to a certain level. Now, if your business is just solely about your lifestyle and putting a little extra money in your pocket, and all you want to do is make a few dollars and things like that to supplement a bill or things like that, that's one thing. But when you're trying to scale your business, that's another story. So anyway, let's kind of get started here. And I'm going to start with the job. Okay. So this is what most people are accustomed to. This is, if you look at today's society, a few shows ago, I talked about Xing out Gen X, and I talked about Generation X and things like that. So the baby boomers kind of got on the college kick back in the 70s, kind of 70s and through the 80s as you come out of civil rights and things like that. And the job market was changing. You went into a mode away from kind of manufacturing and distribution to more of a service-oriented information economy, to where it's about the transfer of information and your ability to not just regurgitate information, but develop critical thinking skills and things like that, and be able to use technology as the computer came big and all that. So the job market's changed rapidly over the baby boomers' lifetime. And so like any kind of networking marketing scheme, the early entry, the people that get into it early benefit the most. Right. So baby boomers kind of got in, and tuition was low, and, you could kind of go to university, get your degree, and they were paying people right out the gate because they had this level of skill. And of course, we know what's happened with that as the government increased, student loan offerings and things like that, and what that's done to people, to the point now where millennials, kind of look at this thing and they're kind of seeing it as a joke. And again, that's different people's opinion. Education is always going to be something that's one of the keys. And then there's a difference between education and knowledge. So that's going to be another podcast for us to discuss, the difference between education and knowledge. But education has its importance. And so most jobs today require some level of education, even beyond the K through 12 high school level, to some level of college and even beyond that. So a lot of people have gone through that. Most of the people, y'all that are listening, or those of you on Facebook, you have a degree, if not multiple degrees in some cases. And so you're able to work a job. So, what are the benefits of working a job? Let's go through that. And we're not going to assume anything, y'all. What's up, Kristen? Smith, what's going on? Sam Upshaw, Quita, Jimmy, how you doing? Nia, what's up, girl? Monica, KJ, Kennedy Johnson, what's going on, man? We got to talk a little Nashville stuff, too. Man, we got someone from South Memphis on here. That's going on. Ms. Marshall, what's going on? How you doing, lady? Kaylin, what's up, girl? All kind of folks, KJ's on here. Kennedy, Kaylin, everybody. Just shouting out the folks on Facebook Live. So, if you look at, from the job, so the benefits of having one. What's the benefits of having a job? For many people, the job gives them a lot of dignity. It's something that they can go and do. It gives them, for some people, it gives them an actual identity. Something. So a lot of people, they describe themselves. If you ask them who they are, a lot of times they don't give you the right answer. They don't tell you really who they are. They tell you what they do and about their job and things like that, and then their family and ongoing. So one of the benefits of the job is it gives you a sense of identity from some people. It gives you, typically you are compensated on a consistent basis. So whether that's daily, whether that's weekly, most people that's biweekly or twice a month, however it sets up, and maybe once a month and maybe once a quarter. But however your compensation is set up on your job, it usually comes fairly consistent. And in vast majority of states, as long as you're not doing anything legal, moral, ethical wrong, or you haven't violated anything in the employee handbook, up to and including your attendance in performing the job, you're compensated. So, and you're compensated at typically a fixed rate for the most part, for most people. They have a fixed salary, or they have a fixed dollar amount that they're paid per hour. Right. So that sounds basic, but we got to make sure we define these things, y'all. So that's another benefit, is the consistent pay. Joyce has added on, and she's very right. And this is where a lot of people look at the benefits of having your job, which is health care and benefit for yourself and for your family. Because most companies nowadays subsidize some portion of the cost of health care and benefits. It's one of the least expensive ways in terms of getting a full coverage for the cost, and having variable options in what's called kind of group insurance. So many companies get into some kind of group plan. And of course, the cost to the company, which is ultimately the cost to you, is driven largely by, the underwriting of rates for that company and the number of participants in the various plans, whether medical, dental, vision, whatever that is. And there's other benefits too, in terms of really inexpensive life insurance and disability, long-term care, all these different things, these benefit packages that become part of your compensation package when you're on the job. It gives you consistency, an ability to drive a career, ability to network, ability for oftentimes free training when it comes to working a job. Depending on what your role is and how you escalate, you generally receive some kind of free training. And so there are a lot of benefits to working a job. If you just fast forward to here in America, I didn't go pull a bunch of stats, but obviously there's a huge workforce here in America that, again, has gone through some evolution, but it's still there and will still be there for the foreseeable future. Although there, as we know, many industries have been impacted and will continue to be impacted by the advent of technology that in many cases can be a solution to the inconsistencies of the human being, right? And the needs of the human being that are fairly obvious. So those are some of the benefits, again, of working a job. Feel free to post some more if you're here on Facebook. If you think of anything that I didn't mention in terms of benefits of kind of having a job, post those there. Of course, in most jobs, you have the ability to be promoted. If it's a business that scales and have some level of hierarchy, you generally have an opportunity to be promoted, whether that's into another title and salary, whether that's just salary or just responsibility, whatever that is, or some combination of all of those. You have an opportunity to be able to do that when you're working a job. So many people, myself and many people that are out there can attest to that, of starting. You might have started your professional career out of college. Maybe while you were in college, like me, you started and got a year or two in. But maybe outside of college, you got a chance to start your career and be able to travel on a company's dime, where they're paying for you to go here and there and all those kind of things. And some of you still do that. Some of you used to do that. And now you've transitioned to what I'll talk about next, which is being a business owner. So a business owner, now I'm not talking about necessarily so much of a freelancer, and I'm certainly not talking about a hobbyist. So a hobbyist is someone who just kind of, if you think of someone that collects baseball cards, right? They do that for a hobby. So they're not concerned about what they generate for themselves or others. They're not concerned about owning any kind of means of production for themselves. When you collect baseball cards, you enjoy doing it, and you do it. And if a day comes where you're not able to do it, you just don't do it, right? If you read as a hobby, or if you play basketball as a hobby, if a day comes where you're not able to do it for whatever reason, it's no big deal. You just kind of go on to the next day and you just make a plan to try to do it another time. That's more how hobbyists think. And there's some of those you'll see on your social media too, hobbyists that masquerade as business owners. And again, this is not to slam anybody. This is just to educate and kind of show the differences between all of these. So if you're a business owner, you manage and you lead a business model that is designed to create in some kind of ways. It creates, whether it's commerce, it creates opportunities for others, opportunities for yourself. So whatever that is that generates some level of revenue. Revenue can come in all kinds of different forms. I know most people think of revenue, they only think of money. And that's usually one fallacy that most certainly Americans have in this capitalistic society is they think of everything only as money. And there's other ways that you generate commerce and things like that, way beyond just money and the materialistic thinking that people have around money. So as a business owner, so what are the benefits of being a business owner? Okay. So one, first off benefit is You have then the freedom to generate your own schedule. So you control your destiny because you don't have technically someone as a direct boss that's telling you what your schedule is and where you need to be for this here and this and that there. You're generally doing that. So you supplement or you supplant that individual, that team lead, that supervisor, that CEO, that C-suite person, that director, that manager. You become that person for the business, typically, if you're a business owner as a business principal. So there's benefits to that. Obviously, you're able to make a decision on what you're going to do that day, how much work you're going to do, and for how long, and that kind of thing, and kind of the freedom to develop and create your own schedule and your own vision towards something from an idea that you've had. So that's one benefit of a business owner. The other benefit of a business owner is your ability to grow. So as a business owner, you're not capped by salary. So for instance, if you work a job and you're making $40,000 a year, you're making $80,000 a year, you're making $150,000 a year, typically you're capped at that point. So no matter how much revenue you might generate for the company, you're capped at whatever they've capped you at. Now, some companies, back to the work piece, is they may have an incentive plan and things like that, but it's generally never going to equate to you as a business owner, because as a business owner, you get a chance to participate in the complete revenue share. You're not, see, as an employee, take whatever company that you might work for. If they're paying you $40,000 a year, that's not because you're generating $40,000 a year for them. That's because you might be generating $500,000 a year for them, or $250,000. At some point, every company has to do what's called an FTE analysis, which is a full-time employee analysis. Every company does that at the executive level, and they're analyzing what's the cost of having your butt there, doing what they're doing, what they need you doing, and how much revenue do they need that position generating. Now, you could be in an overhead position where you're not directly face-to-face with a customer or client and you're more back office, you're more overhead. So now they're taking their sales funnel, whatever that is, and they have to then allocate their production to pay for you as the back office person. Whether you're in administrative, you're in call center, whatever that is, your administrative function that's not directly generating revenue, that has to be incorporated into the cost. As a business owner, particularly when you're first starting out, you get the luxury of kind of scale, having that scale to a very base level that can be fairly manageable, especially with what I said earlier, which is the internet, which has really changed the game, because now you can begin your business and kind of scale it at kind of a minimal level, but get great exposure. No different than what I'm doing today. What I'm doing right now for this podcast, I'm recording the podcast and I'm on Facebook Live. You couldn't do that 3 years ago, much less 20 years ago, right? 20 years ago, I would have to go and beg somebody to give me radio time, and I would have had to pay for that radio time by the hour, right? And then hope y'all listen to me at that particular time, right? And if you don't hear me at that time, you missed that show. And you have to hopefully catch me tomorrow, and I'm going to have a totally different subject, right? Now, you can listen to this podcast 24 hours a day, anytime. You can listen to it over. You can listen to certain parts of it. You can go back and listen to my very first episode. You can listen to today's episode here once I get done. And I can share that. And I've got people that listen, not just in Memphis, but in different pockets within the United States and even internationally, that are watching right here on Facebook Live and will be listening to this podcast. So that's the beauty of being a business owner is, so for instance, with this and owning this podcast, I'm not really bound by FCC laws. I'm on the internet, right? So I can kind of say as I need to. There's nobody in my ear telling me to go to break or to do this or what subjects to cover. I decide and have full creative control, right? So that's what you get as a business owner. From a compensation standpoint and compare it with a job, while it's not consistent, we'll talk about this and some of the other contrasts, but you're not capped. So if you happen to do a deal that's a $1 million deal within your business, you're taking the whole 1 million minus whatever your expenses are, right? If you generate $1 million for your company, you generate $1 million for Smith and Nephew, and your salary is $50,000. Guess what you're going to get at the end of the year? That $50,000 plus minus whatever your tax assessment is and your benefits and everything else that they're giving you. So typically $50,000 is really about $41,000 at the end of the year, for most people. Cassie Jones Price says full control and sometimes for free or low monthly cost. Yeah, Cassie's right. Now full control, you got to be careful with that. Yes, you do have kind of control over everything. One of the things that's similar from a job to a business is you're always going to have a boss. And I know y'all don't like that because most of y'all think, y'all going to be the boss. Rick Ross came out a few years ago and started all that boss talk and everybody became a boss. Just like everybody learned how to spell melanin a few years ago and now everybody's from Wakanda. But so, anyway, people think that they're going to be a boss. And yes, being a boss is one thing, but being a boss is not just easy. It's not just the sexiness of talking about it like you're a rapper, right? Being a boss is, people don't always see what the boss goes through and has to put up with and deal with to be the boss. Like the old adage is, you pay the cost to be the boss. And that's true. There is a cost to it. And so what both a job and a business owner both have a boss. It's just a matter of who it is, right? Most business owners, if you describe how they treat themselves as an employee, most business owners are not good managers and good leaders. When I talk to business owners, sometimes I describe a business owner or a manager who doesn't allow their employees to go on vacation, at times harasses them, doesn't allow them to go to the kids' soccer practices or the kids' recitals and things like that. And they always say, man, that's terrible. I'd never want to work for that person. And then I tell them, well, that person's you. That's how you treat yourself. You work, you don't allow yourself to rest. You don't allow yourself leisure time. You don't allow yourself to go and be things with the kids because you're in this hyper work environment. So having full control is one thing, but you're always going to have a boss. Your boss at work is going to be whoever your direct supervisor is, right? So whoever it is you report to that's doing your weekly reviews or monthly reviews or quarterly reviews or annual review, that's the person that you're going to report to. As a business owner, you report to the business environment, right? You report to the client, right? Take any business owner. If you go and you piss off your top clients by not communicating well, not having transparency, not delivering on what you say you're going to deliver, overcharging, undercharging, whatever that is, they'll fire you. And the other part is people fire themselves. So that's another thing people don't think about. I could tell you many cases of business owners that fire themselves. Now they don't sit themselves down in an office and with a pink slip and say, I'll use me for example. All right, Ron, I don't sit down and look myself in the mirror and fire myself and say, Ron, you haven't been doing what you need to do, and we're going to need to cut ties. And then I look back by myself in the mirror and say, okay, and why is that? And then I have a conversation with myself and I fire myself. That's not what business owners do, right? Business owners fire themselves by not delivering on what they said they're going to do, not having the tenacity grind to keep progressing, allowing other people to nose and slamming doors in your face to impact your ability to progress and kind of move through your process. Not sticking with it after you take L's and things like that. Giving up. That's another way that business owners fire themselves. So business owners fire themselves all the time, and customers fire businesses all the time. You don't believe me? Right? Ask Blockbuster what happened. You don't have to read an article. Call someone up from Blockbuster and ask them what happened. How did they fire themselves? That's the CEO of Blockbuster didn't just one day just say, all right, you're out of here, man. What happened? These companies, when they go out of business or things like that, it's either the business environment changes and they don't adapt, right? Like Blockbuster, that you don't adapt to the experience. They're still thinking that people want to come to the store and experience renting a movie, by hand and walking up to the counter and scanning your membership card, paying $5, and then bringing it back before 6:00 unless you go get a late fee. They miss streaming. No one had the vision to see the streaming piece till it was too late. And when they tried to jump on it, Netflix, Redbox, and everything else, Amazon, everybody else had moved in, jumped on, and they forgot about the customer experience. That the customer don't want to do that if they can sit at home, like many of us do here now, and pay $10 a month and watch whatever the hell you want to watch. Yeah, Charlie Crenshaw, what's up, man? I love that thing too with the children's book, man. I got to get you on the podcast too, brother. My guy Charlie Crenshaw, he's got Charlie the Time Traveler. That kids book, man, is awesome. I saw you on Channel 5 too with Jericho too, boy. That's a Mound veteran right there. And Charlie's granddad is one of the big principals in Orange Mound, man. Great guy, great brother there. But so anyway. And again, that's something to compare and contrast with the business. You have the ability to, to have control, but you got to recognize that you're never going to get away from having a boss. The other boss that a business has, it's 3 letters: I, Ara, and S. And you want to talk about having a boss, right? If you think your boss at work is tough and you think he or she's an asshole and you think that they're don't know what the hell they're doing and they don't like you, get on the wrong side of the IRS, right? The IRS as a boss is not very generous. They don't do any annual reviews. They don't do any promotions, but they do demote. The IRS does demote in a minute. And if you get one of those legit letters from the IRS and they're coming to look at your business, okay, you better have your stuff in order. Now, it's not a death sentence, but just know that they're thorough and they fire businesses every day. Every day they fire businesses. So again, you at work, you're going to have one boss, and then your boss has a boss, and depending on what level that you're at, right? But you're generally going to have a finite number of bosses. In a business, you're going to have several bosses: yourself, the customer, and the business environment. And any of those 3 fire businesses all the time. Okay? All right. So then what's the benefit of, doing both? So this is one area where people have had some angst, and you get the social media folks that jump on and, want to kind of refute this some. Or at least they used to. They've kind of smartened up a little bit, but it used to be a time where people used to slam people for trying to do both. And so you're doing both is you're working a job and you may moonlight your business. So you work on your business. For some of y'all working on your business while you're at work and using their resources and stuff like that and ducking, dodging supervisors and all that. And y'all on Facebook all day commenting and sharing and all that. When you should be working. And then you got the chance to moonlight, or you might work on your business when you're away from the office. So you get off work. Some of y'all go to like a co-working place, or you go to Starbucks. You might go home to your office and you work on your business for some time, between the time you get off work and when you've got to go to sleep and get ready for your work the next day. And so, what's the benefit of that? One, your job, because it's got the consistent income for the most part, can become seed money towards your business. So while you may have social media and some things like that, it is going to take some resource. Money is just one resource, time's another. And there's several other resources, knowledge-wise and things like that you're going to have to leverage to get your business really going. And so many people use the job, whatever excess money, if you can structure your lifestyle right, to be able to provide the seed money for your business. Now, the question I often get when I'm talking with folks is this: is they always want to know, when will I know, or what position do I need to be in to know to be able to quit my job and go to my business full time? And that's something I've done recently. Now that I've no longer been in my banking career in credit union, I've launched full time into Brooks Brothers Consulting, and it's slow out the gate. It takes time. Whether you got a network and things like that. That's not no indictment on Memphis or anything like that. Wherever you go, it's going to take time to really get it going. But it's been very fulfilling at being kind of a full-time business owner for myself. But for a number of years, I did both. I worked a job and I had companies, whether it was Entre Memphis or whatever it was. I had both. So some of the benefit of that is I could kind of hedge a little bit. So I could work my job, and I had enough autonomy and things like that in my job to be able to devote some time during the day and then at night for the business. So I could establish a presence. How could I do that? Well, the internet, right? These platforms, the podcast, things like that I could establish some level of network and some level of being able to scale to some kind of exposure with the business while I'm working a job. Here's the thing, that comes with all of this is that helps make the decision is, if you're a single person, and I'm not saying this to be an indictment, on anybody, because whatever your choice is your choice. But if you're a single person, you're just kind of there, you live alone, and you have no really other responsibilities other than to yourself. Then you may make a decision that's a little different, because you can afford to, if you just need to eat sardines or beans that night, or cheese and crackers, you're okay doing that because it's just you, right? And your expenses are generally scaled to just yourself and things like that. So your decision or the risk that you're able to take may be a little bit different. For those that have parents that they're taking care of and things like that, you may not have quite that flexibility. And then if you got children, right? So you got one child, you got 2 children, 3 children, 4, however many, it doesn't matter. Once you enter children into the mix, your mindset now is different, because not only do you have to take care, and care and groom yourself, but now you're responsible for the edification of a young person. Right. And then if you add on that, if you've got a spouse, you got a husband, you got a wife, or however you categorize that, that's another part of your thought process. And so that impacts a lot of times what you see in terms of these three, whether to have a job, to own your business, or to do both. And so what you'll see with some people is when they're doing both is they really want to be a business owner. They got passion, they got an idea, they got the education, the work ethic, things like that. But they got bills too, right? And you've got children and things like that. And so they can structure your lifestyle as much as you can. But anybody with children knows that they have a cost. No matter how low you try to strip that down and things like that, there's still an expense to having children. And again, the expense is not just limited to money. So y'all stop thinking that every time you say the word expense or resource and all that, it's just about money, because it's not. There's so many other resources and things like that. The biggest one with children is time. You got to spend time with children. They've got to be able to see your behavior so that they can hopefully match up what you say with what you do. And that helps drive their own personal character and how they view the world. And so when you have that, they may require that you need to have, a finite schedule, like a job, where, hey, I work from 9 to 5, and then at 5 o'clock, I tell everybody to go to hell, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. And if you got one of those jobs where you don't really have to carry it away, you don't have a work email that you got to be answering away from the office and all that, 4:59, and then as soon as that dial hits 5 o'clock, you give everybody the middle finger, and you walk out, and like, I'll see you bastards in the morning, right? And you do it all over again. As a business owner, your day don't just end at 5 o'clock, and as a true business owner now, hobbyists are different, but as a true business owner, your day don't just end just whatever. You don't have necessarily finite hours. Even if you got a retail shop and your retail business is open 9 to 5, that restaurant owner, that business owner, that retail owner is not just there from 9 to 5 and just, he or she is not just doing that. In some cases, their day's just beginning because now they've got to reconcile. They've got to plan for the next day. They've got to do some continuous education themselves. They've got to be reviewing their plan, reviewing their process, reviewing what they've got coming up next for tomorrow, next week, next month, next quarter, next year. So there's all this analysis and all these things floating in the air with the business owner. They got to be able to network. They got to be able to groom employees if they're at that point. If they're a nonprofit, they got to be able to fundraise and things like that. What's up, Brittany Thornton? How you doing? Justin Spencer, what's going on, brother? Another brother that's been doing his thing, man, around the country, D.C., Nashville, that kind of thing. Erica Wilson down in Dallas, what's up? Zane, what's going on, brother? The cultural chef. And yeah, man, my guy Charlie Crenshaw, man, CharlieTheTimeTraveler.com. Y'all make sure you check that out for the children's book, CharlieTheTimeTraveler.com. So, it's a challenge, y'all, when you're trying to make this decision because when you've got children and things like that, it's not as easy to just say you just going to quit your job without any kind of plan or anything like that because, again, you may be okay eating beans and raisins and stuff like that for dinner, but your children may not be, right? And so they have other expenses. Let me tell you this. I've got 3 daughters, right? And I've said this on Facebook several times. Y'all want to guess how much money Kim and I spent in daycare in 2015? And 2015 was right before my oldest daughter started started kindergarten that fall in August. Now, guess how much that my wife and I spent? You take a guess. I give you the answer. We spent a little over $25,000 in daycare expenses just in the year of 2015. And hell, that was with my oldest daughter going to kindergarten in August, where she came off the payroll. And we still spent $25,000. Some people's salaries are $25,000. Particularly people like younger in their career or wherever they are. Some people, particularly in Memphis, there's a slew of people that don't make $25,000 a year in income, even with the tax refund. And here we are paying, we got that as a bill. And that's one bill. That ain't counting our housing, that ain't counting vehicles, that ain't counting clothing, that ain't counting food, that ain't counting insurance, that ain't counting anything. Just daycare. $25,000 here in Memphis, Tennessee in 2015. That year, that's the kind of money we spent just on freaking daycare, just for the great school that they went to be able to watch them Monday through Friday. They didn't even count the damn weekend. Monday through Friday, my bill, that I had paid in, my wife and I, $25,000. So now, when you got to make a decision on that, right? You've got 2 vehicles, you've got rent or you got a mortgage. Everybody can't just run and go hide out in their mama's house, their auntie's house, or some woman's house, or some dude's house, or some baby mama's house. Everybody ain't like that, right? So some folks out here, they really got to do their thing, and they're fortunate to be able to do it. And so that requires that resource, right? So how are you going to be able to do that? Right? So Corbin says, damn, yeah. And Corbin, you keep on adding to your family, brother. You'll see. But yeah, man. So yeah, $25,000, Corbin. It is what it is, man. And so now, what are you going to do? We're not sitting around with family all clamoring to watch your children during the day. We got 3 girls. There's one thing you watching 1. Try watching 3 that are, from the oldest to the youngest is only separated by 33 months. It's not like we don't have a 1-year-old and a 15-year-old and then a 25-year-old. We don't have that. We don't have no gaps like that. Everybody was boom, boom, boom. And everybody's situation is not like that. But there are a lot of people who've got young children and sometimes they're fairly close together. So there's a cost with that. All right. So grooming your business may not produce some level of predictability to produce some level of income to be able to take care of that, right? So let's just say I didn't do that. So I didn't go to work and I worked to build my business, right? During that time, 2015, let's go there for myself. So I got a bill that's going to cost me $25,000 for the year. All right. So if I don't go to work and I try to build my business, could I have done that? Sure, I could have. Who's to say that I couldn't? Right? Only me and whatever grind work that I put in, depending on what I'm doing. Now, running Entre Memphis and all that by itself, more than likely, a co-working business model is not going to generate the kind of income for you to live and pay $25,000 a year for freaking daycare. With one of them falling off the last third of the year. Right? So what I'm saying to you is, minding your business, folks, is that you've got to, make your decision. You got your lifestyle. You got to be able to make the proper decision. Here's what's the difference between a lot of times with men and women that I see. And then now I'm getting to an opinion now. My opinion, and I've seen this, so I'm trying to justify this with some of what I've seen, is that women in general are more likely to do this. They're more likely to make the decision that they're going to do what they need to do to set themselves up to do what they want to do. They're going to put themselves in a position to do what they need to do in order to then do what they want to do. So you'll see a lot of women that will do both. They do hair on the side and then they work at FedEx. They do this. So a lot of times they're trying to do both. And you got some women that strike out on their own and they're great business owners, right? You've got them all around the city. You've got them on your timeline. They strike out on their own. And whatever their situation is on how they're able to do that and whatnot, some of them save up real good. Some of them, and this is people in general. Some people get a nice insurance settlement from folk that die and, folk that get disabled and all this kind of stuff. Some people get military payouts. Some people they have children. They get nice, support payouts and things like that. Irregardless, they're able to position themselves to be full-time business owners because they have some kind of nest egg or something that allows them to do that. And then some just purely work a job. They have no either interest in being a business owner or they haven't developed, or the conceptual side of their idea is not quite there to be able to get there to be a business owner, right? So you've got people in all those phases, but women tend to they're willing to do what they need to do. So if they need to go get a job, and usually that's because they have children and things like that. But even if they don't, you'll see single women, they'll go get the job and then try to get a type of job that gives them some kind of autonomy to hopefully be able to get to where they can leave it and do what they want to do. So the question earlier was, at what point do you know when to do that? Generally, my rule of thumb is if you're working a job and your business can generate 40 to 50% of your salary, so take your just whatever you make in a month, right? If you start getting into consecutive months where you're able to, if you make $5,000 a month, if you're able to make $2,500 in your business for kind of some 2 or 3 consecutive months, and you got a process going, taking the 100% of your time that you're spending on your job and applying that to your business, ideally should take you the rest of the $2,500. If you continue to put the grind work in and you've got a vetted out model. So if your income's $5,000 a month, take whatever that is, and from your business, you're doing this on the side and you're already able to generate $2,500 by giving the time that you give it now. If you put that in full time, you'll make at a minimum the other $2,500, if not more. Right? And then you're on your way. So that's kind of Champron's rule of thumb for at what point do you know when I can leave the job and then do that. Keeping in mind what I was talking about earlier, some of the benefits of the job, which are benefits and things like that, particularly if you've got a spouse or children, right? So those are things you got to keep in mind, because just because you'll sit there and get chest pains and die on the couch, don't mean you want your children doing that, right? You go get them the medical care that they need. And everybody ain't going to be just running into no trauma centers and all that for no headache and all that kind of thing, which that's what the Affordable Health Care was trying to keep y'all from doing. Well, there are many things with that, but we're not here to talk about affordable health care. But so those are things you got to keep in mind, y'all, when you start talking about making that decision on which to transition to, right? And so what are some of the downsides, real quick, of all three? Well, obviously the downside of the job is, again, you don't have the autonomy. You're kind of bound to whatever you're bound to, particularly at different levels of the organization. And I've said this on shows before. A CEO is an employee. A CEO is an employee. Okay? A CEO, a chief executive officer, hence officer, is an employee. Now, you can be a business owner and a CEO, but just a CEO is an employee. Take any CEO, they are hired by a board of directors. When you say that you're the CEO, I'm going to ask who's the chairman of the board, right? If there's no board, which most folks, there's no board. That's why they don't like that question, because it exposes them. They get in their feelings, right? Because they like to define everything else until it comes to themselves, right? A CEO is an employee. CEO is hired by a board of directors. That means the CEO can be fired by the board of directors if he or she does not perform at the level they need to perform, right? If they're not in ownership, which a lot of CEOs around here at even some of your Fortune 500 companies are not owners. Many of them are. Many of them have stock plans and things like that where they have a significant percentage of ownership. But there are many who don't. They're just the CEO. They're the top executive. They're basically the top employee of the company. They set the vision and things like that, but they're an employee. With a majority vote of the board, and in a lot of cases, if the chairman of the board, he or she, they get on the wrong side of them, they're out. And they'll put out an executive search and they'll hire a new CEO. Okay? So, at many levels, being on a job, again, has its benefits and has some of its what may be things that you can contrast. Being a business owner, we already talked about that. What's the, some of the downside is it's going to take a little bit more work. And if you're not prepared to work, that's going to be a downside for you. It's going to be a little bit more grind work. It may be slower to get going than a job. Because a job, when you start, you're generally getting your first paycheck that month. Within a month, 2 weeks to a month, that first full pay period that you're on, you're getting paid. Starting your business, you may not get paid or see any progress for months, maybe even years, right? So a lot of times it could be a slow ramp up period with that, which is how I had to make my decision. Most times as a business, it's got a slow ramp up period, but I've got expenses today. MLG&W can none of y'all call MLG&W and say, and that's Memphis Light Gas and Water for those that aren't in Memphis. That's the utility company here that has the monopoly, which is ridiculous. But you can't call MLG&W and say, you know what, MLG&W, I left my job and I'm starting my business, and it's going to take me a little while to get ramped up. So, maybe if you could just kind of, leave the utilities on, but just kind of freeze my bill. And until I get ramped up, and I'll give you a call once I get ramped up, and then y'all can start billing me. All right? Don't work that way. Okay? MLG&W go send you a bill. Damn it! As soon as you pay it, they got another one coming in the mail. You'll pay it on Thursday, and damn it won't be till by Tuesday they'll have another bill in your mailbox or in your email inbox. Right? I mean, you pay for a car, right? What happens? You pay for the car, they send you a bill right after it. Don't pay the car, what are they going to do? They coming to get it, right? I had daycare. If I don't pay daycare, guess what they're going to do? Can't bring your kids here. right? So you got bills today, right? And I get that. So again, I talk in the authenticity and transparency. I'm not one of these guys that's going to try to, I'm not listening to some guy that's, somewhere who's, dad already had $1 million and could kind of set him up. Like, no. I'm talking about real life, kind of things here. You've got your bills today. Either you created them, already. Because if you look at the fact, one of the challenges here in Memphis is that most people don't get serious about owning anything until they've already established all these debts and all these challenges, right, and obstacles. They've already had 4 children with 4 or 5 different people. They kind of skated their way through high school, didn't really take it seriously. Then maybe, went to college, jumped out, went to college, jumped out. And then all of a sudden they're 33, 34, and they want to get serious about it. But now it's hard to just drop out because you've got these children. You got baby mama, you got baby daddy, ex-wife, ex-husband, blah, blah, blah. And life happens to them, right? And I'm not trying to condemn anybody's decisions, but it's the decisions that then impact us. We're not a city that has a ton of folks that unfortunately jump on their business. They graduate high school, go to college, graduate college at 22, 23, whatever, and then start their business or start it while they're in college. We don't have a lot of that. Keep in mind, entrepreneurship, like I talked about to start the show, didn't really become the sexy thing until everybody was getting fired from the downturn, right? Until everybody was getting fired, until 07, late 07, 08, and 09, where folk either was getting laid off from jobs, fired from jobs, having to relocate, couldn't find another job, couldn't find a job in their field, started getting $70,000 in student loan debt, but then come out making $32,500 as a base salary, or $11. You've been sitting in college for 5 years, you come out making $11 an hour. Until that started happening, again, entrepreneurship was kind of a one thing, kind of a pie in the sky. It was looked at the same way, almost like how the lottery is looked at, right? Where some people win, most people don't. Everybody hangs on to the stat. Well, half of all businesses fail. Okay, half of all businesses don't then. It's the same way where it scare folks about marriage. Half of all marriages fail. So you're not going to get married? How many accidents happen on the streets just today? Ain't stopped nobody from driving. It could be an accident all up and down Poplar. What are y'all going to do? Y'all going to get in the car still, and you just go say, to hell with that, I'm going to avoid Poplar, and I'm going to drive somewhere else. But you still going to drive. It's the same thing with these other things. So they allow the statistics to be the driver of their behavior, which is what the government wants. When they want to reduce families and things like that, they just create the environment to make people think, because people think economically, they make them think that way. That's how you do the mind control. But again, another podcast. So you've got to be able to make the decisions, y'all, kind of based on your situation. So here's the thing. If you happen to have children, you've got expenses today, you're working a job, you don't like the job, you hate your boss, you hate the company, or you love the company, love your boss, and all those kind of things. You make good money. Some of y'all out here make, strong 6-figure money, right? But you've got skill set to allow you to do your own thing. So here's what you do. When you're on your job, right, whether you're going into that field, whatever field you're going into, make sure as a best practice that you invest in the training. When they send you the training class and they give you these material books, a lot of times that's college level training, right? Keep that book, keep those manuals, right? Because you can use that stuff. You get stuff from, y'all get HR training, y'all get job training, y'all get leadership training, y'all get all this training depending on your company that you work for. Leverage that. Keep that training, because you may be able to duplicate some of that. You may be able to use that in your own business. When you're at work, don't just get so enamored with your job. Don't just sit there and play on Facebook all day and stuff like that. Learn about where are the company's gaps. Every company's got something that's a gap. It's just like in basketball. You're not going to stop everything somebody does, or in football. You're not going to stop the run and the pass. There's something that they're not accounting for, or something that they have to let go. Either you go line up and you go stop the run, or you're going to line up and you're going to stop the pass, and you're going to leave the run somewhat open, and you're going to try to mitigate it as much as you can. You're either going to play zone in basketball, or you go play man. You might play some combination of the two, but something's going to be open, either the middle of the floor, the corners, the top of the key, whatever it is. And then some player's going to be open. You double team, you do different things. At some point, somebody's going to be open. You're not going to be able to account for everything, right? The best defenses that have ever been in sports, they still don't account for everything. They may be very good at stopping the main things, right? But they're still not stopping everything, right? So you're not going to be able to account for everything. So when you look at, you've got expenses, you've got things that you got to handle. You got to handle those things first, and then review them and understand that there's adjustments that you can make in your budget. So you got to sit down and be looking at your budget all the time to make sure that things that you can cut out. I'll give you a best practice I do. I call whether it's AT&T, Comcast, any of these folks that I got these reoccurring monthly bills for. I'm always putting their feet to the fire. Hey, can you give me a better deal, or I got to move, I got to walk. And either they give me a better deal or I walk. And that's what I do. I'm always looking for kind of a better deal to get that same homogeneous service. Same with the cell phone, all that kind of thing. Looking at what type of vehicle do I drive? Do my kids have to go to private school? There's some great public schools, kind of around the city. Can I go there and save on that tuition bill? Some people are so caught up in that. These private school tuitions are more than the University of Memphis. By the time your kid gets to school, they've already paid $100,000 through their school career in tuition to go to a private school, just for them to end up working at Crystals or something. Nothing against anybody working at Crystals, but I sure as hell wouldn't send my kid to Briarcrest for 12 years, only for them to come back and work at White Castle. Right. So anyway, you've got to be able to look at these things and look at them with a level of understanding that you're going to make the best choice for your situation. Because if you don't make the right choice for your situation, you're going to find yourself in a tough spot. And here's the thing that happens, y'all. If you don't make the right decision, or if you get caught up into, people who don't have your situation and what they do, you're going to find yourself taking the L. Because a lot of times, this is the funny thing about with any of this stuff is some of the funny thing with it is business owners or people that want to be business owners. A lot of times what you'll find is they don't, when they get short with money. So, I used to see this with people all the time is they quit their job. They down people with a job. Oh, you don't need to work no job. You need to do this and you need to do that. And then when their money gets short, guess who they call? They don't call another business owner. Right? They don't call anybody else that's out hustling and grinding. I do it for myself. They call somebody that's got a job. Right? They call someone that's got a job. Hey, man, I need the whole 20. I need the whole 50. I need the whole 100. I need $1,000. They call mama because she's getting, whoever's getting a consistent income, that's who they call. They don't call another struggling business owner, another freelancer. No. They were down to people with a job. Then when they need money, they get short because they done left their job, right? And the first people they call is the folk with, who are working a job and got money. So don't down people, and then vice versa. You got people with jobs that someone leaves their job to go start a business, and they down them. Oh, they ain't gonna work. They gonna be back, and that's dumb. They were making so much money, and they had worked for that job, and 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 so people with jobs down sometimes people who go out and are willing to take the risk as an entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur and business owner are different. They can be one and the same, right? But there's differences if you're doing it on your own. An entrepreneur is someone that takes the calculated risk to start a business process and then they exit that process to go do it again. That's an entrepreneur. You know, an entrepreneur by itself is not a business owner. A business owner is someone that's leading and managing a process, a means of production, right, within a company. They generally stay with that company and run that for some length of time, if not perpetually. It's an entrepreneur. That's why Mark Cuban is an entrepreneur, right? And he's a business owner, but he started as an entrepreneur, meaning that he was starting businesses and then he was selling them and he's going on to the next idea. And he still does that because he invests in entrepreneurs now. But he's also a business owner because he does what? He owns media companies and he owns the Dallas Mavericks basketball franchise. So he's a business owner now, and he's been for some time, but he got into the game as an entrepreneur, right? So this isn't about downing anybody or making someone feel bad or anybody's inadequate. Our environment, our economic environment, is predicated on having a balance between those that are in ownership and those who help support and drive the dream of owners, right? That's the balance that you have to have. And the better that balance is, the better that the economy tends to run. When you get in balance with one or the other, it sometimes can throw things off. So I'm hoping that you've gotten some value today in terms of going between the job, looking at your business, and then doing both. There's no really right answer. It really comes down to what's best for you. And I can help you with that. And there's other people within my network that can help you realize that vision from a consultative standpoint for yourself. And I advise you to get around that level of expertise. Karonda, what's going on, Sora? How you doing, lady? Greg Bernard, man, I shouted you out earlier. Great job on Wednesday, man. That was awesome. What you did at Agents of Exchange with your company, Data Maxim, is great value. Tamika, how you doing? Cameron, what's going on? Shay, what's up? Reginald Johnson, what's up, my man? Kimberly, how you doing? And Elgin, what's up? Scott Kinney says, I agree on balance. Some people with a true entrepreneurial mindset that still have to balance their current life situations need an opportunity with low startup costs that can work with limited time investment, so they can dig their way out without having to give up their steady income that keeps the ship afloat. And Scott kind of said that and summed that up perfectly, which is, again, what I say earlier about how women tend to do is they do what, and this is in general, they do what they need to do in order to do what they want to do. Men sometimes just want to do what they want to do, sometimes at the expense of what they've got to take care of today. And then that's where you see men, they're willing to live off of women because the economic environment, the job environment is a little more catered sometimes in certain industries towards women and kind of how they're brought up and kind of reared. They're willing to keep themselves focused long enough to go through the process, and they're willing to do what they need to do. So a lot of times, and there are men that were like this too. So I'm talking in wide generalization. So I'm not talking specifics here at all. This is wide generalization in terms of that. But typically I've seen that in my own walk, is that women are willing to do what they need to do to then do what they want to do. Where sometimes men aren't. They're not willing to do they're not willing to start at the bottom. If they do work a job, they got to be the manager. They got to be the HNIC. They're not willing to step out and kind of do that and work their way up. They can't be the stick up kid. They got to be Nino Brown from the jump. And that's not always the case. And that's not always what the opportunity is. And you still have to, as Scott mentioned, you still got to be willing to take care of your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month expectations and responsibilities. And particularly when you've got other family members that live in your household, whether that's spouse and or children. So don't be ashamed of that. Everything kind of comes in time, and there are resources out here that will help you as you go along your walk. And that's the biggest thing that I take away from today is that just know that you've got people within your network, people within my network and others who are experienced and able to help you with making that decision specifically for yourself and having a plan. So if you're working a job right now today, you're sitting in the cubicle, you're living for the weekend, you can't wait till it's 4:30, 5 o'clock, or you can't wait till your boss leaves so that you can leave a few minutes after you see his car leave the parking lot. If that's your case and you want to be a business owner, then you've got to start. You got to start structuring yourself the right way, start saving some money, watch your habits. Watch what you do and spend money on the weekend. Maybe you need to cut some of that out. Maybe you need to look at, maybe you don't need a $150 a month DirecTV bill. Maybe you can cut that to $50. Look at what you actually watch. Can you watch it on YouTube? Can you watch it on something else? Do you need a $150 a month phone bill? Do you need to cut that out? Do you need to spend $600, $700 a month on a car? Can you cut that down to maybe $400? Things like that, $450. Do you need to have a $2,500 a month mortgage or rent or things like that? Maybe you can cut that down to $1,800. So there's ways to do that, and you got to be able to sit down with some advice on that. If you're a business owner and maybe you've kind of run your business and you're looking to either get that to the next level, or you're at a point where you don't want to be a business owner anymore and you want the security, as relative as you can say it, and being, going back and working a job, then again, you need to seek the advice and kind of counsel with that to see what your options are and kind of best game plan that. And if you're doing both, right, you're kind of somewhat running the business, moonlighting it, and you're employee, so you're kind of an employeepreneur, kind of in a sense. You got to determine, which do you want to do? Do you want to do that long term? And your business more than likely is never really going to scale up if you're always going to be working a job at the same time. So you've got to look at what is your long-term vision? What is it that you want? And people like myself as a consultant and others are going to ask you the kind of questions to critically think through. What's your next step? Right? Which one do you want to do? Do you want to work the job? Which is okay. If that's what you want to do, do you want to run the business? And that's okay too, if that's what you want to do. But at some point, you get to a point where you're probably going to want to make some level of decision. And when you do that, again, you've got resources to be able to help you to do that. So I'm Champ Ron. This is the Minding Your Business podcast. And listen, thank you so much for your listening ear, for your feedback, for those that have given feedback on Facebook Live, for those that are listening on the podcast. Again, www.themybpodcast.com. You can catch us on iTunes, Stitcher, Spreaker, YouTube, iHeartRadio, all those different places where you listen and catch podcast content. Thank you so much for those of you that shared, those of you that have left positive comments, those of you that have inboxed. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Give me the good, bad, and the ugly. I didn't get this far by being soft or thin skinned. So I appreciate all the feedback, the love, the unloving, whatever that is. I appreciate it all. I thank y'all so much. We're going to be back with a new episode on next week, as we always do. We're getting closer to episode 50. And I'm going to have something special for our 50th episode of the Minding Your Business podcast. So, listen, enjoy your weekend. Thank you so much. Thank you to everybody here on Facebook Live. I'm Champ Ron. Let's make it a great weekend. It's going to be a little rainy here in Memphis, but there's still opportunity. Every day creates another opportunity. You're the best you that will ever exist, and you need to operate that. We all make history, baby. Champ Ron, Minding Your Business podcast.